The Harris campaign just announced that it raised a mind-blowing amount of money in the month of August. Trump's campaign, meanwhile, did not even raise half as much as Harris's did that month. Here are the numbers courtesy of The Hill. Vice President Harris's campaign raised $361 million in August and has $404 million in cash on hand going into the last 2 months before Election Day. Since Harris launched her campaign in July after President Biden dropped out of the race, her ticket has raised more than $615 million according to the campaign. Now, the Harris campaign is claiming that their August fundraising numbers set a record for grassroots donations. That hasn't been confirmed, but here is what they're claiming. The campaign said that 95% of August donations were under $200. Over 60% of donors in August were women, and almost 1/5 of donors were registered Republicans or independents, according to the campaign. So we did some math for you. For the record, 95% of $361 million comes out to about $343 million, which means that approximately $18 million worth of Harris's August donations were over $200. So it's not just grassroots donors who are lining up behind her. She's getting a lot of corporate support too. Today, 88 current and former executives endorsed the vice president in a joint letter, which reads in part, Harris's election is the best way to support the continued strength, security, and reliability of our democracy and economy. With Kamala Harris in the White House, the business community can be confident that it will have a president who wants American industries to thrive. Now, signers of the letter included Jeffrey Katzenberg, who is a top Democratic fundraiser, Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn CEO, James Murdoch, of the Murdochs, heir to the Murdoch family fortune, and Mark Cuban, the entrepreneur and billionaire. There's more to this story, but first, Cenk, we were talking about this earlier, and you mentioned that this is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's great that she's getting her money, and it's great that these big business leaders are backing her, especially since they weren't backing Biden. But does this mean that she's now beholden to these corporate supporters? Does this corporate support hold more weight than the 95% of small donors? What do you think?
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it. Well, first of all, definitely, let's keep it real. But beyond that, also, how does it look? So in mainstream media, it looks great. You know, they put out there, oh, the business leaders are backing Kamala Harris, and if you live in the TV world, that shows that, you know, smart, established people are, you know, backing her and the system and stability, and we'll get back to why they're doing that in a second. And that seems as nothing but a pure positive, and she's raised more money, and that's a pure positive. But in the actual country, when you see a headline that says 88 corporate CEOs back politician X, right, fill in the blank, I don't know that for the average American that's such a great story. I think that a lot of Americans look at that and go, well, I knew it. You know, there's the establishment, there's the person who works for big business, etc. So it's a mixed blessing. I'm really not sure how it comes out. We'll come back to in a second why the business owners did it and the CEOs, because there's a very important reason, and they say it all over their letter. But Mark, what do you think? Helps or hurts?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and I felt I'm kind of bummed that you don't have a clean fix on it, because I don't think you can have a clean fix on it. It's not because you don't. I guess what I'm getting at is I felt like of all people I know, you would have the cleanest fix on whether or not that would be damaging to the small donor community that supports Kamala Harris, because you've dealt with Bernie Sanders for so long, and I think you've dealt with small donorship through your TYT building. I just felt like you know that world. I would say that there's certain practical considerations that one has to keep in mind. And a lot of these guys who come from the world of Wall Street and big business, I mean, again, Murdoch, the interesting schism in the Murdoch family, you know, there's the split between Murdochs that's kind of been advertised. One is clearly now in the Harris camp, and the Mark Cubans of the world. They want stability in the economy, I think. I'm not suggesting that they share any progressive ideals particularly, but stability is a good thing. Most investors want stability, but of course, the bulk of the super rich, they want to own an easily ownable candidate, and that is Donald Trump, and an easily ownable administration, and that's the Trump administration.
Yeah, I know Mark Cuban, he has said publicly a few times that he wants a good economy, because if regular, everyday working Americans don't have money in their pockets, and how are they going to buy anything that these billionaires are trying to sell them? So let's check in and see how Trump's doing. Speaking of Trump, Trump's fundraising numbers are tiny. They're abysmal even compared to Harris's, but he's also claiming that he had strong grassroots support. This is again from The Hill. The Trump campaign raised $130 million in August, which it said on Wednesday was fueled almost entirely by donations of less than $200. The Trump campaign has $295 million in cash on hand. So specifically, the Trump campaign claimed that 98% of their August donations were under $200. And that's huge if true, but not as huge as the numbers that Harris was pulling. Harris raised nearly 3 times as much as Trump did in August, and she's got twice as much cash on hand going into the final stretch of the election. In fact, Harris has so much cash that she's even donating $24.5 million to down ballot Democrats. Mark, I want to remind people that I never want to get too comfortable, too close to election day, but are these numbers comforting to you? Are they indicative of any kind of bigger picture of what's happening with this election? They usually are.
I'd rather have those numbers than Trump's numbers, that's for sure. I mean, I think it's one of those situations where you definitely can look to some of this and see trends. So when you look at polling, which is kind of deadlocked, you look at trends as best you can. And I think as you look at this money machine, you look at enthusiasm, and I'd rather have that than, as I say, the alternative. It doesn't always mean, though, money is sadly, it's a good litmus test. I mean, I'd love to get money out of politics, and that's at the core of TYT's mission, is getting that money out of politics. But I will remind you that Hillary Clinton also led Donald Trump in fundraising, and as I recall, that didn't work out so well. So I wouldn't, have plan the rap party just yet.
Yeah, totally. So look, first, the reason they mainly wrote the letter is not because they're not going to say it in the letter either, like, oh, because we'd like to get favors. That's baked in. They expect favors from every politician, Republican and Democrat, that they donate to. Although some of them, especially for the Democrats, given that their taxes might get raised, probably won't, but might get raised, are actually doing it for the right reasons. But having said all that, they say in the letter very clearly that their purpose is stability, reliability. And what they mean is, look, in order for business to do well, you need stable markets and predictability. And you can't have like a wild man like Donald Trump coming in and going, I don't know, maybe I'll make tariffs 20% or 50%. Or maybe I'll just bring in Elon Musk, as he said yesterday, and have him revamp the entire government by himself. That does not create stability and reliability. That creates yo-yo effect, et cetera. Last time around when he was president, he was massively reined in by the establishment. He had more Goldman Sachs guys in his cabinet than anyone in history. He brought them in, and they had a lot of downsides. They mainly were there for the tax cuts and deregulation, but they did hold him down when he tried to do something incredibly stupid. This time around, he won't have that. So that's why the business leaders are like, whoa, 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 whoa. One, he's totally unreliable and totally out of control. Two, he's saying that he's actively going to work for whoever gives him more money. And if they're running a business against us, that means he's going to cheat on their behalf. But mainly, the unpredictability of this madman is not good for business or markets. Now, in terms of how it affects Kamala Harris, I mean, of course, you'd rather have more money, to Mark's point, because then you run more ads, you have more people that can do door knocking, all the different things that you need for a campaign. It creates positive media because the media doesn't see it like we do, where they just see like, oh, corporate CEOs. She won more corporate CEOs, she wins, it's over, right? So all the media around it is very, very positive, and that affects people to some degree. Mark, to your question about small donors, I don't think that it affects how much small donors give. What I'm more worried about is the voters. How does it affect the voters? And so when you see all these big business guys coming in on Kamala Harris's side, that might actually cost her some votes. These days, the Democrats, unfortunately, are seen as the more establishment party. But of course, the Republicans are all about serving business interests. But now Trump has made it not all business interests, only the people who bribe me, like Elon Musk and the oil companies. That's why he's constantly talking about drill, baby, drill, and now handing off to government. And that's why he switched his position from being against electric vehicles to now being in favor of electric vehicles. He is so obvious with his corruption. It's ridiculous, and it is something that unnerves the markets, let alone the voters. But the upside that Kamala Harris has is she's now viewed as the change candidate. And that's very positive, because before we had Biden and Trump, they were both same old, same old. They both have, according to the voters, have corruption issues systemically in Biden's case, and systemically and personally in Trump's case. But now all of a sudden, even if the Democrats are seen as more establishment, they at least have a new candidate, someone that would be different than the same old, same old. That I think that has helped Kamala Harris more than anything else. So that's why when these big money interests come in for Kamala Harris, I'm worried that takes away from her being the change candidate and refocuses people to her being the more establishment big business candidate, and that's not a good thing overall. So that's why. On the other hand,
I mean, Mark Cuban. If I need to get one, big business leader, Mark Cuban, I think generally would poll. I mean, I know they don't do these polls particularly, but his Q score, if you want to think of it in those old terms, is better than a lot of others. It's not. I just think that again, if you have to choose those who might buoy the image, Mark Cuban may be not a bad guy to have on your team.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank is all over TV criticizing Kamala Harris and praising Trump. So let's even it out. Mark Cuban, Kevin O'Leary, come on the Young Turks and debate Kamala versus Trump.
Oh, strong. I'd love to see that.
All right, welcome anytime. We'll reach out, hopefully make that happen for you guys, if they want. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.